And so the first step is to always just embrace, yes, I have this fear. Accept it, witness it, be curious about it. That's like the first step generally. And then shifting from, okay, I have this fear and it's okay to have this fear. Now, that doesn't mean allowing yourself to just be overwhelmed by it and to enable it. But what it does mean is like understanding you're human, understanding that, yeah, we've been operating off of old information or faulty information that, I mean, it might have helped us for a while, but when it no longer served us, not to beat ourselves up for living off of that old information. It's really embracing like, okay, this is how I've operated for so long. And then it's identifying, okay, what is the new belief system that I need to operate under to get to where I want to be?
Today, I'm joined by Andy Hoffer, a coach who helps women redefine their relationship with money and reclaim confidence in their next chapter. Andy has a gift for breaking down the emotional patterns behind money stories and guiding her clients through lasting breakthroughs. Her work is especially powerful for women transitioning out of corporate and wanting to build a healthier, more empowered connection with money and self worth. Andy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. What a wonderful intro. I'm always floored when people introduce me. I'm like, yeah, I do that.
That's great. We're going to dive into like how do you do that and how did you get started? What was the beginning of like when you were starting to getting pulled towards coaching?
So my story dates back to I had my daughter when I was 17, and coming from immigrant parents, they were pretty much like, well, you made your bed, now you got to lay in it. And I remember, being on food stamps and really like trying to figure stuff out for my daughter, food banks, like, and I remember I just had this epiphany that I'm like, no more. I got to do what I got to do to make sure that we get out of poverty, that, my daughter's not going to be subjected to this. I want the best for her. And the only way I knew how to really live, like in my family, it's like doctor, lawyer, engineer. That's what you were, that's what you did. Like, there was no ifs, like, you had to do something like that. So I went into engineering because I'm good at math. And so, montage of like me going to community college, me going to college and pulling it together, having all these plethora of odd jobs. And I became an engineer and, well, really a rocket scientist. So I was a rocket scientist for 10 years.
Uh huh.
And, um, about 7 years into my career, I remember I was on a program that, was like a massive government contract. And if it was like a Wednesday, they said, by Friday, we need to delete everything, ship everything back to the customer, the program's closed. And I just had a moment of like, I look around and I'm like, oh, I actually hate engineering. Like, I really had this moment of like realizing that everything that I had built really had no meaning behind it, that it was purely built out of fear of not wanting to live in poverty because of my daughter. And, I'm grateful that I got the opportunity to do that. But because that massive shift happened, I remember thinking, okay, well, what do I really want to do with myself? Like, what does that mean to like love your job? I grew up hearing, everybody hates their job. Everybody dislikes what they do. Like, you just have to do it. And then on your free time, you do the stuff that you love. And I remember thinking like there just has to be a better way. And so from that point on, like I like my introduction to like personal development was through yoga, physical fitness, and the ambitious person that I am, I'm like, I can't just be a yoga student. I have to be a yoga teacher. And so I did yoga teacher training and, I opened up my own program. And in that program, it was a style of yoga where you're kind of mentoring the students to go through the sequence on their own, called
Mm-hmm.
Ashtanga yoga. And I remember one student came up to me after I had encouraged them to really take a hold of, one of their family trips and like go camping. And she was kind of resistant, she didn't really like being a burden on people, but she wound up going. And after the class, she came up to me and said, I really just want to thank you for encouraging me for going on this trip. Like, I haven't been able to pitch my tent in 20 years, but I was able to do that. And that hit me like right here. Like knowing that, because I see in people what they cannot see in themselves and, encouraging them and helping them to overcome those mental barriers, that she could do something that she had never thought she was going to be able to do again. And that was it. Like I was like, this is it. I know my purpose in life. It's not to build bombs. It's not to, work on computers. Like that is not what it is. For me, it is helping people and assisting them with overcoming those mental hurdles that we have that, you know, we think that are limiting us to whatever it is that, our life is currently.
So that kind of helped shape like the coach that you became then,
Oh,
correct?
absolutely. From
Yeah.
there, what it shaped into ultimately over time was because of my background, knowing that I had built the career out of fear, to me, that was like the major hurdle that I had overcome was like, wait a minute, I'm living a life that is not aligned with who I am. It was based out of fear. It was based out of, wanting something better for my daughter, for someone else. And yeah, there's a time and a place for that. Absolutely. We have to do what we have to do. But there comes a point when we start to settle into this is just life that shift. And a lot of times financial fears come into that. It's like, well, I can't leave my job because it pays so much money. How am I going to make money doing something else? Like the golden handcuffs, right? Like I don't want to leave because it like my prison is too comfortable.
So it's kind of like about facing the fears and facing those beliefs, especially around money, that take courage to kind of go, I can change those beliefs. Or like, how do you tackle like working with somebody that has a limiting belief around, I can't leave because I'm too comfortable?
So there's a lot to unpack here. So first, first is the idea of the leap of faith. Any type of leap of faith that people want to take, what should be understood is that it's going to open the door for fear, doubt, and insecurity. Those are going to unearth those beliefs that we have about ourselves. Like, who are we? What's our identity? Like, my identity was so wrapped up in being this rocket scientist. Like, it's pretty cool to tell people, hey, I'm a rocket scientist, like there's a lot of identity that gets wrapped up in what we do and what we produce in society. So there's a lot of, okay, is that really congruent with who we are on the inside? We have to tackle identity, not only just the fears that come up in terms of, well, how am I going to make money? What is this going to look like? For some people, they might have enough of a nest egg where they can just make the leap, quit and become, an underwater basket weaver if that's what they want to be, like, but for the majority of us, that might not be reality. And so we might either have to adjust, our comfort levels and like, what does our life currently look like? Or we might, just dip our toe in the water and get a part-time job to like facilitate us shifting gears. So there's many ways and it's all dependent on the person. But really tackling the can I shift my identity to a new one in safety? That's really the crux of the problem because the financial stuff, it all works itself out. I mean, I know that, you know that as a coach, like eventually that's just going to work itself out. When you start to live in alignment, once you start to tackle the heart of the problem, which is the identity, is can I see myself as this new person? And what does that mean? What does that bring with it? And all that, the stuff that happens when we take this leap of faith.
So it's kind of more about becoming than what you're doing, like defining. You just gave a great example about you defined yourself by what you did, and it's now defining yourself about who you're becoming.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. Because um, our identity, especially when it comes to career, when it comes to money, it's how much do you make? Like, what happens when you start making less? What happens when you start making more? What happens when your family, like in my case, I tell my family, "Oh yeah, I'm leaving engineering to become a life coach." What? What? What do you what? Life coach? No, 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 not life coach. No, like that's not. Like that's the mentality is that like not only do you have to go against everything that you have learned, but also the way that other people are going to start to view you. Like people are going to think you're crazy. Can you withstand that? Can you navigate that? Can you be so steadfast in your new identity that it doesn't even matter what anybody thinks? And coming to terms with, forward to a different identity just brings a lot more than just, okay, I'm this new thing now. I wish it were that simple. But yet, what we often find is that, especially be it beliefs from our past, beliefs from society, beliefs from, our own experience, those all come into play when we decide, hey, you know what? I really want to shift gears. Like, I'm just not happy anymore. And then all that work that comes with it just follows.
So then as you started like building your practice and building your identity as a life coach, what kind of people were you attracting? Like what was showing up in your life as far as that was then mirroring who you were becoming?
Oh, I love this question because for the longest time, I was attracting people who also had financial fears because that was the biggest thing for me. My own financial fears start to unearth when I'm leaving this six-figure job to God knows what. And I did it at the height of the pandemic, right? Like when everything shut down. So at that time, a lot of people had financial fears, understandably. And yet, those were the people that I was attracting, people who were seeking discount coaching, people who didn't see their own value in what they were trying to invest in when it comes to personal development, because I
Mm.
didn't have that myself. I didn't have my own worth at the time. I didn't have my own personal strength and, hey, no, I believe in what I'm doing. And so like, I was coaching at, like, $50 a month, and, like, that was insane because I was working basically for less than minimum wage, but
Right.
that's what my brain told me was that nobody's gonna pay this much, COVID's happening, nobody has money, and so, like, all my own fears started to come up, and 100% it would reflect on the type of people who would come to find me. Now I find that I know that for myself, like if I find a personal development program, a retreat, a coach or a mentor, something that has like a price that I'm going to figure it out because that's the kind of person I am. And so now I know that the people that I attract are that kind of person that they're going to figure it out. They're going to figure it out. And that's the type of resourcefulness of the clients that I allow to be coached by me. But the people who that want to be coached by me, those are the kind of people that I vibe with because those are the people who I know, hey, if this is the plan, they're gonna figure it out, right?
Well, you're kind of testing their capabilities and having them stretch as to who they think that they could be.
Right,
And
right.
and then with that comes I like that you also identify yourself as a truth sayer. So part of that is like kind of like bringing them the reality of like who they're currently living and then where do they want to live into and practicing that and have that be worth like what the coaching value is.
Absolutely. And I never look at personal development as a cost. A cost is something that
Mhm.
you lose, something that's gone, but this is an investment. This is we're poised to help people shift to a new life that's going to be better aligned with who they are, who they want to be. And in that, it's an investment. It is.
Okay. So how do you can you take me through a little bit of the process of like going from fear-based to empowerment choice?
So, what I have found is important is to always acknowledge where we are. We always think that, hey, I am living in this fear. I have this belief, and this is real. This is happening. And yet we want to be rid of it. We want to be done with it. Like, I just want to be rid of this belief and move on with my life. However, we've been fighting the belief so long The belief has like muscles that are crazy. Like we are trying to fight something that has been fighting back with us for years, decades even. And so the first step is to always just embrace, yes, I have this fear. Accept it, witness it, be curious about it. That's like the first step generally. And then shifting from, okay, I have this fear and it's okay to have this fear. Now, that doesn't mean allowing yourself to just be overwhelmed by it and to enable it. But what it does mean is like understanding you're human, understanding that, yeah, we've been operating off of old information or faulty information. I mean, it might have helped us for a while, but when it no longer serves us, not to beat ourselves up for living off of that old information. It's really embracing like, okay, this is how I've operated for so long. And then it's identifying, okay, what is the new belief system that I need to operate under to get to where I want to be? Now, that can be understanding that, I don't know, for instance, like women aren't good entrepreneurs. That was a belief that I had for a very long time because I never witnessed it before. But now, stepping forward, finding women entrepreneurs who are super successful, having them model that for me, witnessing it, and really embodying the women can be powerful entrepreneurs, amazing entrepreneurs, billionaires, even because of their entrepreneurship. And then stepping into that identity of knowing that that new belief system is real. And so it's kind of like the seeing that you've been operating off of faulty information, being
Hmm.
okay that you've operated off of that, and there's a element of forgiveness there. And then
Yeah.
finally stepping into the new belief system, seeing what that is, embodying it, and really making decisions and choices from that place moving forward.
Excellent. So it's kind of like making a decision and then living into it and then kind of negotiating that as we go, as that client goes, as we go in our lives.
Absolutely. And you said something really important right now. You said, making the decision and then moving forward. Oftentimes, people will make the decision to change and then not do anything. There's actually a cute little story I was thinking of today that there are five frogs on a log. Four frogs decide to jump into the water. How many frogs are on the log? Five. The decision didn't have them jump in the water. They just made the decision. So really, it's about the action that comes from that decision and embodying it moving forward. And I think that's really the part where a coach comes in because we can identify, we're kind of like the mirror, where the person who says, okay, this is what you're saying to me. Let me reflect back to you what you just said. Because we don't
Mm,
hear ourselves sometimes. We're just talking. We're just like, yeah, this is real. This is true. And we don't have anybody to challenge us. But the coach will challenge you and say, is that real? Is that true? Does that work for you? And if not, let's shift it.
right. It's so interesting because I was thinking about people putting out podcasts and just giving information and what's the difference between that coaching relationship and just people putting out social media, like to be sensationalistic or whatever, and just kind of like sharing maybe their story. But then the difference that you just kind of pointed out, it's taking that next step of then living into it and taking that small step to gain momentum and furthering yourself to that next stage in your life or that next transition.
Oh, absolutely. And I know you coach in retirement, right? And
Hmm.
is one of the major leaps of faith that women and men have to take eventually. I mean, we don't want to work forever, right? And
Right.
living into that new identity is about taking action. It's not about stopping working. It's like, what's going to happen after that? Who am I after that? And embodying it, but also living into it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, because that's what, and that's also around a money mindset too, as far as, and I know that that's one of the areas that you specialize. Oftentimes, when people retire, they feel like they have this, like, okay, I'm financially set, whether they go through a DIY system, as far as like with deciding, or through a financial advisor. But then then spending, and I think you said it earlier in the podcast, you have to look at spending as an investment in
Right.
your in yourself.
Right.
So that's really interesting.
Yeah, I just heard this and I don't know if this is going to resonate with you. I know it resonated with me, but looking at every purchase as an energetic exchange. It's, am I buying something just because
Uh,
my neighbor has it and I want it? Or am I purchasing something because it's the new shiny thing? Am I purchasing this because it's going to fill a hole within my spirit and those kinds of purchases will drain your bank account really fast. Those
right.
kinds of purchases will drain your spirit really fast. But when we look
Mhm.
at, what is it that I'm actually getting with the money that I'm using? Is this something that's going to bring me happiness for a long time? Is this something that I'm going to treasure? Then it's worth the investment. It's worth the money. Especially moving forward from a place of, having an income to living on a fixed income, you have to not only consciously think about, dollars and cents, you have to think about, is this something that is going to benefit me in the long run versus just satiate this point in time? And so there's a mindset shift that happens to spending money in just to spend money because you can, to spending money
Mhm.
spiritually.
Hmm. And people often don't think of that as far as on the spiritual aspect of it, because when they retire, they stop keeping score of what they do and how much, like, quote, let's say they make, to
Yes.
then maybe live out a certain personal passion or some way. Many people still want to contribute, but they don't know what to do and how to walk through that door as far as taking that step, because the brain goes, oh, it's scary, kind of thing.
Yes.
So it's very interesting as far as that spiritual interaction, or that energetic interaction between how you invest in your future and
Yeah,
your health.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It
So what's
comes, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say is, if you want to talk about maybe some of the results that you've gotten with your clients, like where they've walked through the door of changing some of their limiting beliefs or their different things as far as that they've changed in life. Can you give a couple examples of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I recently had a client who was feeling really guilty because she felt like she had to be a producer. Just being somebody in the workforce, she had a small child who was disabled, but she felt compelled to make all this money to be able to support her kid and wasn't relying on the people, her community, and all these resources that she had around her. And so she felt really guilty because, she was like, I have to work, I have to work, I have to work. Over time, what we realized was that her calling was really to be super mom. Like she absolutely loved being at home with her kid. And it wasn't about trying to escape the responsibility of being a mom. It was her need to be such an amazing mom was being hindered because of the way she thought the society was perceiving her for not working. And so
Mm,
she really felt like, like I have to work, like that's how I'm going to take care of my kid. And with one question, it was like, well, isn't staying at home with your kid taking care of your kid? And you could see this light just kind of go off. And she's like, yeah, I guess so. And we worked
uh-huh.
through a whole bunch of other, self-limiting beliefs that she had that like were surrounded with staying home. But understanding that sometimes our self-limiting beliefs come from a place of love, come from a place just like with me and my daughter. Like I know I had to become an engineer so that I could take care of her. It
Mm,
came from a place of love, place of fear, a place of I want her to be okay. But then it
right.
comes, okay, what about me? What about the ultimate goal in me? And so having my client shift that was really powerful because her mood, her demeanor, her life, her health, like pretty much everything in her life did a 180 when she really leaned into the identity of supermom.
Hmm. Yeah. So, like, the subconscious is purposeful because it creates the structure around us to like succeed and to keep us safe. But then there's a challenging aspect of like, is it totally in line with who we want to be for ourselves and maybe for the people around us?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in one way or another, these self-limiting beliefs, as you said, they do help us. At some point, they have functioned for us. It got me to levels of success as an engineer that, a lot of people would envy, that a lot of people would desire and want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Like, and I worked with a ton of engineers who loved what they did. Like, so
Hmm.
this isn't to disparage anybody in corporate or disparage anybody who works a 9 to 5. You know, that's absolutely powerful when it's aligned with what you want. But it comes a point where it's like, are you doing this because you really want to do it, or are there
Hmm.
driving factors that are pushing you to do it? And that's when it starts to become problematic.
It's kind of like storing the positive learnings in it, like honoring that it got you to that next place and then
Yeah.
choosing like, where do I want to go from here?
Right. Right. And
Um,
and that's the other piece that I was talking about earlier is, I spent a lot of time really resenting that I felt stuck in this career. And what kind of propelled me forward was finally realizing, but you know what? This is what helped my daughter go to school. This is what helped my daughter go to college. This is what helped, us to have a home in a safe neighborhood. This is what helped me to have transportation for her. This is, gave us a lot of experiences that we would never have had I still been, working at the gas station or, with the jobs that I had. I would have never been able to give her that. So yes, in a sense, it was positive and it was wonderful. And once I was able to stand on that, I could then build my future. Because the other thing is, especially when it comes to massive shifts, is you never want to take a massive shift from fear, lack, doubt, insecurity, anger, frustration, because the what's going to happen is you're going to wind up attracting more of the same. You're going to wind up attracting the same situations over and over again, whether it's relationships, job, friends, family. You're going to keep attracting the same thing over and over again. So I knew I couldn't leave engineering because I didn't like it. I knew I had to
right.
leave engineering because I was done with it.
Interesting. That's a different feel. It's a
Yeah.
different feel when you run screaming from something versus when you run to not run to something, but choose something as far as that's different than that.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely. Because the energetic behind that is coming from a place of I'm being pushed away from one thing rather than being drawn to alignment. It's
yeah,
being repelled by something or being pulled by something. It's two very, very different energetic fields. And when you finally finish what it is that you were meant to complete, whether it's the job relationship or whatever, then you can move on to the next thing with grace, ease and flow. And that foundation is just so much more powerful.
absolutely. So as we get into like coming into the 2026, what's in how do you see your business and your future kind of changing and evolving?
That is so amazing that you asked me this. So, in January, I'm actually going to have a webinar series that I'm going to be hosting with another coach called Courage to Pause. And in
Uh-huh.
it, we're helping women gain clarity, reclaim their voice, and start setting healthy boundaries, whether it's, career, whether it's relationships with family, friends, even with their own children. And hopefully, mid 2026, I'm going to be leading a retreat in El Salvador. So I'm really excited to be, cultivating that in the background and really stepping my game up to serve people in a powerful, um, beautiful manner because, coaching is global. Coaching is absolutely global. And I feel like, I want to put myself out there. So I'm doing it.
Excellent. That's so great as far as that. Okay, as we wrap up, it's a really great point that you made as far as you get more of what you focus on. And so I think that's a great ending as far as because you're starting new beginnings with your business and that's going to resonate with your clients so much better as far as as you continue to kind of grow and flourish. So, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, sharing your experience. Is there any final words that you want to say, or if you want to give your contact information so people know how to get in touch with you?
Well, first, I want to say thank you, Margaret. This has been such an amazing experience, and I love sharing the work that I do because I think coaching has changed my life, and I know that coaching has changed so many people's lives. And the opportunity to just share that you have, this is such a gift. So I just really want to say thank you, Margaret. So if people want to find me, my website is andyhoffercoaching.com, and I am on LinkedIn at Coach Andy Hoffer. And you can find me and my podcast on YouTube at Andy Hoffer. It's called Mindset Matters More. And I typically come out every week with a new video. Right now, we're talking about a book by Wallace Wattles called The Science of Getting Rich. It's a really
Oh,
fun
cool.
and it's a spiritual book, if you can believe it.
Well, thank you for everything that you've given to me and my audiences. You choose to help people move forward and move yourself forward. And I applaud that and I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Margaret. I am so
Okay.
happy that we got to connect.
Yeah, absolutely. So cool. Thank you so much. Bye.